Hello, sheep. Oh, there's me in there. Here's the foxglove I've just gathered from the garden, and I'm just taking a good look at it to see how it's put together before I start painting it. Noticing it's got lots of buds at the top, and then gradually the flowers open as we go down the stem, and then it's got these massive leaves at the bottom which are very striking and bound to form a large part of most compositions. But today what we're going to do is we're going to focus more on the background, and I'm going to show you how to do a loose background for any kind of flower. In this case it'll be a foxglove. So let's get started. I've got my piece of a small piece of paper here that I've stretched on a piece of corrugated plastic board using staples, which is another method for stretching paper, and if you're interested I can show you how to do that. We're going to be using probably these colours here, which is Potter's Pink, Quinacridone Purple, Quinacridone Gold, Cobalt Blue, Turquoise and Sap Green. So I'm going to draw loosely, and sometimes I find if I use a very heavy pencil it's easier to draw loosely or harder to have control, so that comes to the same thing. And this is a propelling pencil, would you call it? It's a pencil, a lead grip. This one holds a very thick lead if you want it to. It's called Polytechnic, and I think you can probably buy them. Somebody gave it to me. So I'm just roughly drawing some flowers here. The stem is there in the middle, obviously, so we'll just take the stem up and we'll let the flowers kind of grow out as we go up. And they have a little hat. Each of the flowers has a little hat of green at the top, and just keep them really rough and really loose. There we are, and maybe there'll be another one here. And we're going to do them pink, and in the inside there'll be some darker markings because they have kind of spots on the inside. And then we could imagine perhaps that there were maybe another grouping in the background there, which we won't draw that in. So I'm just going to do a wet in wet background, and so that's what I'm going to do first. So I'll take a large, this is a 14, a large round brush, and I'm just going to go round the flowers more or less. Try to cover the whole of the background and not to touch the flowers too much. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop in some colours for the background and let that find its own way around the paper. And where it's not wet, the water won't go. So the idea is we will come in with a light wash of cobalt blue in the background here, and a bit darker over here, so we'll add some purple, just to make it more intense. And maybe I'll just tip it a little bit like that. Maybe I'll work with it on a slight angle like that, and then I'm going to pick up some Potter's Pink and drop that in the background too. And some Potter's Pink over here, mixed in with the mauve and the blue. So we'll just let it mix and mingle for the first layer. Oops. It doesn't matter if it goes across the picture like that, just ignore that. And then perhaps we'll put a bit of turquoise down here. Let that also mix and mingle. And don't worry if you don't like the look of it at this stage, because this is just the undercoat, so to speak. Don't fiddle with it. Just, she says to herself, don't fiddle, Mr. Mannering. But do notice where you have missed, as I have, the background. So we just want to go in there. That's a flower, that's a flower. And that should be painted so that the flowers actually show reasonably. So we'll let that dry a little bit, and meanwhile I will, what will I do? I'll tell you what I might do. I might add some more pink, with a slightly more intense pinkness, if I can find Chevening Rose. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that, because I know, as I've often said, how much lighter watercolours dry. So we'll see what happens if I just... And I'll tell you what else I'm going to do. I like to let my paintings evolve. I can't be doing with this, and now I'm going to, and now I'm going to. I never have painted like that, and when I'm teaching, I'm never going to paint like that. So what this is calling out, screaming out to me for, is salt. So I'm going to put some textured background in. Which just means to say I've got an excuse to go away and leave that to dry. So I'll probably make a cup of tea or something like that. And we'll let that do its thing. Can't help it. Yes, but we don't want it any darker than that. Let me see what that does. So that's dry. I'm just going to now brush off the salt. And I'm going to paint the green little stems at the back of each flower. And I'm going to use a mixture of Quinacridone Gold and sap green for that. And we'll just drop those in there at the back, and at the same time paint the stem a little bit at the background there. We'll vary that and sort of add some Quinacridone Gold and just take that all the way up there and down here a little bit. And just an indication. And then up here, perhaps a little indication also of the plant going on into the distance. And then, where is my potter's pink? Here we are. We're going to paint that pink kind of into the leaves at the back. Then we're going to soften those edges. And then pink again, just on the inside. And I want to intensify the bluey purple colour here. And also down the bottom. So here I'm just working on strengthening some areas of the background a little bit, and adding cobalt blue here to just make the flowers pop out a bit. I've left the flowers really light. I know that in reality foxgloves are somewhat darker than this, but quite often when you see them in the garden, all you see is a pink flower because the sunlight shining through them sends them into another level of colour. So you can work on this as much as you like. You could wet it again, add more salt if you wanted to. You can rub some of the paint out and make it softer. It's up to you, but basically you've got a textured background here, and you can paint over it and into it and around it. This works quite well if you want to keep things light, and I'm going to take this painting and I'm going to do it again once I've decided which bits of it have really worked well and which bits didn't work so well, and I'll have another go at it and see whether I can make a really successful version of it. So here's the final painting, and as you can see I've added a little bit of pen and ink structure to it to make it look a little bit more like a foxglove. And that's one way that you could finish it off if you feel that you've lost the shape of the flowers a little bit. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching me experiment with this painting. And as you know, it's always an experimentation process whenever you set out to paint a picture. You never quite know what's going to happen with watercolour, which is what makes it such fun. So I will say goodbye for now, and I'll see you again soon, and have fun giving this a try, and we'll take up this subject again soon. So goodbye everybody, bye bye for now, bye bye.